Welcome to the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce podcast, your weekly update of business news and issues from around Cumbria. Find out how we support new business and help existing businesses to grow and flourish at cumbriachamber.co.uk. Now here's the Chamber's Business Engagement Manager, Julian Whittle, with this week's episode.
Hello, I'm here with Adrian Luckham, one of the most experienced advisors with Cumbria Business Growth Hub, to talk about barriers to business growth and how the Growth Hub can help businesses overcome them. Adrian, recent polling by the British Business Bank suggests that as many as 1 in 3 business owners want to grow their business, but are actually a little bit unsure about how to go about it. Now, it being the British Business Bank, they believe that access to finance is one of the constraints. I mean, to what extent is that still the case? I mean, it's 10 years now since the financial crisis. What are the options for businesses that are looking to raise working capital or capital for investment?
I think the first thing to say is that things have got better. Certainly around the financial crisis, there was a period of a number of years where not only was it very difficult for businesses to raise new finance, there was a certain degree of pressure from banks to pay down or reduce their existing finance. Yeah, which meant that even if they had good growth prospects, it was a very difficult period. Those that did succeed, of course, had the benefit of lower interest rates than for whatever in history, really.
Yes,
so that was a positive, at least.
We still got that, really.
Exactly. And things have improved. I think banks are more cautious. They are looking certainly for reassurance that not only can capital be guaranteed, but also that repayments can be serviced without any stress to the business. But the recommendation will always be to start with the bank, because if you can get a loan from the bank, generally speaking, that will be the cheapest source.
But what if the bank says no?
If the bank says no, then the good news is there are options. You mentioned the British Business Bank. They came onto the scene really probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I suppose now, and they sit behind something called the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund. Yeah. They offer a number of avenues that can help. First is if it's a startup company, which is anything which isn't trading or has been trading less than 2 years, then you can apply for a startup loan of up to £25,000 per director, assuming, of course, that you're setting up as a limited company. If you're a sole trader, unfortunately, that doesn't apply. Right. If you need more help, then they do conventional debt finance. There are actually 2 programs, but they work in pretty much the same way. One is for loans between 25 and 100,000, and then the larger goes from 100,000 up to a maximum of 750,000. And
they also do equity finance, don't they? If you want to sell a stake in your business to generate some capital.
Yeah, because for some businesses they don't want to raise debt or they don't want to increase debt, and if equity share is an opportunity, then they have people on the ground within the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund who will help assess whether equity investment might be the right route forward. If it would, or if it might, then they'll help a company actually develop the prospectus for sale and to make the absolute pitch. So that's another opportunity. There are a couple more. Enterprise Answers is an organisation up in Penrith that's been trading for a number of years. Yeah. And it exists really as an alternative to conventional bank lending. So if you have been turned down by the bank, or if the bank are willing to lend less than you need, then approach Enterprise Answers and they will look at the business plan and give you an answer usually within a month. And typically they're lending at something like 10-12%. So it is more expensive than the bank, but if the bank won't lend, it's still perhaps affordable. Yeah. And the final thing is, if you're happy or lucky enough to live in the Eden Valley area, in collaboration with Eden District Council, then Enterprise Answers are managing something called the Eden Business Fund, which works in pretty much the same way and again lends at around 10-12%.
Okay. Oh, well, that's promising. Now, recruitment is a major constraint for some businesses looking to grow. Cumbria, we have what's been dubbed a super aging population, which in real terms, practical terms, it means that the number of people retiring is outstripping the number of young people joining the workforce. So the working age population is actually shrinking. Now, what can businesses do to retain the staff that they've got and recruit new talent? And what about retraining existing workers to perform new roles?
I think the subject of training is a really interesting one and a very important one. Certainly I can confirm that clients I work with often refer to the ironic challenge of recruiting. You know, they have the market, they have the demand, they have the ambition, they perhaps even have the bank finance in place, but they struggle to actually recruit people with the right skills and to retain them. So training can help in a number of different ways. I think with existing staff, if you offer training to an existing staff member, generally that's seen as a very positive thing. It's an indication that the company values that staff member, that they're willing to invest in developing that staff member. And valued staff tend to be loyal staff. They stay longer and they work more effectively. It also brings in new skills or encourages more productive working, which means that you effectively increase capacity and the skills within the existing team, so you don't need the recruitment perhaps. And the other thing also is, let's not forget that recruitment is a very time-consuming and potentially expensive process, particularly if you make the wrong decision. So perhaps sometimes training is the first place to start rather than recruitment per se.
I see. And there is help, isn't there, for training at the moment?
Another way in which we can help is referral to what the Cumbria colleges call the Edge. This is a program which opened, I think, about 18-20 months ago, and the colleges have funding to deliver training potentially in any area of the business. It's what they call fully funded, which means effectively it's free. It won't cost the client company anything.
Right.
So training can be in any area of the business. Common topics like leadership and management, finance for non-financial managers, bookkeeping, digital marketing, social media for business is a huge one. Or more practical things like heavy goods handling and forklift truck driving. These can all potentially be offered. It's not one-to-one training, so it's delivered to a group of 6 or 8 people. So if you're not big enough to have 6 or 8 people within the company wanting to do the same training, then you have to wait until the college have identified a cluster of another half dozen people who want to do the same subject. So if you are one of those looking for training in one of those areas which is popular, then it's excellent because it costs nothing and you can be pretty sure it will be offered somewhere locally. If you're looking for something a bit more exotic or a bit more tailor-made, you may find that they struggle to actually get 6 or 8 people in the county wanting to do the same subject, and therefore it doesn't run, or you might need to travel further in order to get the benefit. In which case, the alternative might be the Cumbria Growth Hub. We have a subsidy scheme, which a lot of clients use for things like website development, graphic design, consultancy, but it can also be used for training. And the advantage of that is that the training is delivered by a provider that you choose, and it can therefore be one-to-one or at least 100% dedicated to your individual business.
Okay. Right, we hear a lot from government about innovation and raising productivity. How should businesses approach that?
Innovation, I think, is a really exciting area. It's usually an area where a company is taking a relatively big risk and hoping to make a step change in its development. So I think we all get a bit excited about that, but it raises the challenge that generally it requires skills that aren't necessarily already within the business, and certainly extra resource. There are a couple of ways that we can find support for that kind of activity. The Cumbria Innovations platform is a program run by the University of Cumbria and Lancaster University. Effectively, it offers an opportunity for a company to present a brief to a group of third-year students. A brief would normally be a challenge or an issue or a problem that they're having. Those students would then go away, supported by their professor or lecturer, do the research, use the resources in terms of knowledge or skills or equipment that the university has, and then present back with some options and some solutions. And certainly from some of my clients' experience, it can be a really valuable process and quite a learning curve for the client as well. There was something, and I hate speaking about things which aren't currently open, there was something called the Cumbria Manufacturing Service, which closed a few months back, which offered 30% towards the cost of any external consultancy or accreditation or testing, which was pretty useful in this particular area. I hear that there's a good chance that they will be coming back.
Good.
Whether it's with the same name, but early in 2019.
Good.
The other thing that businesses might consider when it comes to innovation is there are grants available through a program called Innovate UK. Innovation projects tend to be more about research and development, which tend to be more about people's time rather than capital expenditure like machines and equipment. And projects like Innovate UK, projects like Innovate UK, the grants that they offer are very much tailored with that in mind. So you can actually include the cost of your employees' time as well as external fees as part of the project, and things like materials as well, which are excluded from traditional grant schemes. The only challenge is that they operate a series of priorities, and these priorities come and go. They open a window and they close a window. So there may be, if you're lucky, something that happens to be available right now, or it's worth going onto the website and registering, and then that way you'll get an automatic email announcing when a new window opens, and hopefully one of those might fit the project that you have in mind.
Now, I suppose one way to grow your business is to target new markets, perhaps overseas. What help is there for first-time exporters, or indeed for existing exporters who want to look at new markets?
I think export seems to be a huge priority. Certainly, when we look at the economy, it's going to be incoming visitors and outgoing exports growth that is going to improve things. Yeah. And of course, it's the one area where the devaluation of the pound following Brexit has actually helped things. Products are now, or services are now 15-20% cheaper than they were. So, first port of call is really Department of International Trade. UKTI that was. It's been renamed, as these things do tend to be.
Ditch these days, yes.
Ditch, yes. Yeah. Again, they have people on the ground who are happy to help, generally without any cost to the client. They are usually allocated either on the basis of the advisor having specialist skills in the market that you're targeting, or in the industry that you operate in. And occasionally they also have funding that can help with the cost of sales trips or research trips, and things like exhibition space and exhibition stands. And I suppose the other thing also would be to mention again the Growth Hub subsidy, because if there's a consultant who has the skills and the knowledge of the market, of the process of exporting that you need, then again we can help with up to £2,000 of that cost.
Okay. Now, what about small and medium-sized enterprises looking to win contracts with much larger businesses, maybe multinational companies or the public sector? How can we help them?
The first port of call probably would be within the Growth Hub, we have something specifically called the Supply Chain Project.
Supply Chain Gateway, I think.
Supply Chain Gateway, get my names right.
Yeah.
On the website, there's a lot of information available in terms of what we can do to help, and some specific examples would be if you're a food and drink supplier, for instance, booths and their particular procurement process. Eva Foran is the supply chain manager, who's up in Carlisle and always happy to help. So I'd suggest starting there. There is also an organisation called the Furness Economic Development Forum. So if you're based in the Furness area, or you're looking to do business with companies that are in the Furness area or Barrow, then Stuart Klaczynski at the FEDF is the man to talk to.
Okay. You talked a bit about the subsidy scheme a minute ago, because in a slightly different context, sometimes businesses need to buy in specialist consultancy in order to underpin their growth plans. It could be an e-commerce specialist, it could be financial advisor, marketing person, or whatever. Now, the subsidy scheme, is it 40% of the cost you can reclaim?
Yeah. It's 40%. It's a minimum of £1,000 and a maximum of £2,000 of subsidy. So, in other words, if you're spending in total between £2,500 and £5,000, then the Growth Hub will stump up 40% of that cost. It's a very simple scheme. Unusual for most grant schemes, it's very quick to organise. And we can usually turn it around once the client's got 3 quotes ready. The paperwork takes maybe 15-20 minutes to fill in.
Oh, that's good.
And get a decision within a week.
Yeah.
We also have, for businesses that are in the process of starting up or have recently started, we can also refer into the Business Startup Service, which carries a similar scheme. A subsidy of £1,000 again at 40%. And if the Cumbria Manufacturing Service were to reappear, then they offered, similar grants towards this kind of consultancy.
Now, a business growth, quite obviously, I suppose, requires a degree of strategic planning. I mean, I wonder, would you agree that sometimes business owners are so wrapped up in the day-to-day operations of their business that they don't have that time to take a step back, think long-term? Are there any programs or any systems to help them do that?
Well, on your first question, Julian, I'd say no, I don't agree. I think most business owners are struggling with that problem. Most of us are struggling with that problem. There are never enough hours in the day or days in the week. And certainly the majority of my clients will empathise with that particular challenge. And if only there was a grant scheme that would offer free time, we'd be very, very good, wouldn't it? Indeed. It would work well. I think this is one of those classic areas where we all know, and bear in mind that most advisors are self-employed. I myself have had my own business for 20 years now. We know this problem. We recognise this problem in ourselves. You start off with a list of things to do. You get halfway down, 3/4 of the way down, quarter of the way down. There is always something that doesn't get done. And I think the way in which the Growth Hub can help is, as an impartial advisor sat on the outside, we can help perhaps prioritise all the things that need to be done, and make sure that the things that don't get done are the smaller balls that get dropped at the bottom of the list, and therefore they don't matter quite so much.
Oh, that's a fair point. And what other barriers to business growth have you come across, and how can Growth Hub advisors like yourself help businesses overcome them?
I think, and I don't want to talk out of turn, but confusion is one of the biggest problems or challenges that I find in clients when I start talking to them. There is support out there, and they're often surprised to discover how much support is available. But different programs have different names, they have different eligibility criteria, they offer different types of support, and it gets confusing. And many a time you'll find somebody's been referred to a website and a wave of information is available, but they don't have the time to actually read all the way through it and work out whether it applies to them. So I know I'm banging on a bit, but talk to your business advisor, because we try to keep up abreast of what's out there, and these things come and go. And then before we can avoid wasting time and not referring people to schemes which no longer apply or for which they wouldn't be eligible, but just make sure that we get the right support wherever possible. You mentioned recruitment already. Recruitment is a major challenge, and in the short term, it's not easy to see what we can do about that, but this is where perhaps companies need to look to training, to improving their existing productivity and ways in which they can get more out of their existing staff. And again, look for support in terms of bringing in external specialists for specific projects or limited periods of time. Cash flow always. And we all know the quote about sort of more businesses going out of business making a profit, but it really is the case. A business that's got strong growth can easily get into a lot of difficulty because the cash runs out. Speaking as a son of an accountant, I didn't inherit any of those particular genes, but I've grudgingly become used to the idea of using a cash flow forecast to work out whether there is enough money within the business to see us through. And if there isn't, knowing that there isn't, early enough to talk to the bank in an organised manner to make sure that we can get the funding in place in time. And the other thing, of course, as you mentioned, just time.
Yes.
25-hour day would be great.
All right, I think we've run out of time. So thanks very much, Adrian. That's been very helpful. To find out how the Growth Hub can help your business, go to our website, www.cumbriagrowthhub.co.uk, or call us on 0844 257 8450. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce podcast. You can find out more about how we're supporting Cumbrian businesses at cumbriachamber.co.uk and cumbriagrowthhub.co.uk. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and we'll have another episode for you next week.